Hello everyone, recently we looked at the giant and big books of battle mats from Loke Battle Mats. Well, today it's not a book, but it is a battle mat board. This is at the moment in its sort of stored one with just the sleeve on it. It is 30 centimeters by 30 centimeters in this form, but opens up to be a 2 foot by 2 foot board, which is 60 by 60 centimeters. It's covered on both sides with sort of a white clean laminate finish, which allows you to draw on it with whiteboard pens in the same way that you could use the giant and big books. On one side of this board you've got a dungeon floor, so sort of cracked stone sort of squares, and on the other side it's sort of a grassy field. They do have details on them in terms of some sort of muddier patches, and on the dungeon side some cracked tiles, but otherwise they are sort of very plain basic sort of things for people to draw details on top of. Now there is a 1-inch grid on both sides. It's obviously an overlay on the grass, and for the stone dungeon tiles, well, basically each square is sort of a stone tile, like in the floor almost. Some of those are cracked and stuff, but the 1-inch grid is very noticeable, which makes it really good for D&D or Pathfinder or any RPG system that will use a 1-inch grid. Let's unbox or de-sleeve it, and then we'll come back and talk about what I think of the product overall. So here we are, we have literally just the sleeve, which is, that's probably going to go in the bin with some information on it. And then here is the board. So we can literally just sort of fold this out. It is quite big, so it's not going to all be in shot. It just shows you quite how big that actually is. Now, if I zoom in, it is reflective, as you can see, but the squares are not actually the same. There's no really discernible obvious repetition on a pattern on either side of this board, which I'm actually quite impressed by. I really did think, especially with the 1-inch grid on this stone side, that we'd see sort of an obvious repetition of a piece that, like a stone that looks like that, but I can't see it anywhere on the entire board. Now, flipping it over, this is where you have the grassy side. Now, there are some sort of details. Let's try not to get the light in. There you can kind of see there's some patches which are a little bit darker. I think this piece is potentially a better example of that. Just here you can kind of see some brown and some grass. The grid is obviously not, it's overlaid rather than being really part of the actual stone system. But you can do this as well, which I don't know if it's intended to be used like this, but you can have an interior room, and then by having it sort of semi-folded, you could then have an interior and an exterior zone. So, if you really wanted to, you could also then obviously have it so you just have a longer corridor where that would actually almost fit in shot. Let's throw some minis onto this and get some pen going so you can see it in use. So much like the giant and big books, really love the laminate finish. It does make it shiny. I think you could see in sort of the video, the light does reflect off it quite a lot. So if you're in sort of a different angle or something, you might get some spots on the board that are reflecting light, and that does detract from the overall look. But for the usability, the ability just to draw on sort of a dungeon on, rub it off when the adventurers are through, and flip the board over and then use the other side, I think it's all great. And that the ability to flip it over and have grass on one side and the dungeon tiles on the other, sort of double the usage. You're going to have multiple locations, whether it's a wood that you need the grass floor for, an encampment maybe, you've got then on the other side, you could probably use it for sort of slightly sort of ruined buildings and stuff like that. Potentially some of the sort of less reputable taverns might have the dungeon tile floor. Otherwise, you've got it for dungeons and caves and stuff like that. And you can quite easily draw on sort of wiggling passageways for people to go through. Now, being such a large board, it does cover a good amount of space on the table. Being a 1-inch grid will allow it, you can actually put on top of it some sort of products such as Warlock tiles or Dwarven Forge, I'm sure you could use as well. They use that 1-inch grid, so you could use sort of buildings of that on top. So you could put like a tavern or a townhouse on top of the grass, and then, you know, you've got an outside and an inside for an encounter. And I think that could work really well. It's also going to work really well just with the Battle Mat books. So you can easily flip open an interior location of, I don't know, maybe say some kind of grand building or castle, and then have the grass next to it. So you could use a small section of it, have it just a bit of it used, and you could say maybe that's a courtyard, a grass courtyard or something like that. For the usage, therefore, I think it's going to get used quite a lot, whether you're using other 3D terrains or you're using other sort of flip open books and stuff like that. For those that don't have anything, it's a great start because it's got so much customability, if that's even a thing, by just drawing your passageways and buildings on. It's super quick to just open it up and use, and I think that's what the whole point of this product is. I think part of their tagline is basically open it up or unfold and get rolling, because you really can open the board up, maybe do a quick sketch of the rough outline of the building, and that's your encounter. Put your minis down, put your 2D standees down, and you're already playing with this. I think that's what this is going to be for. If you've got 3D terrain tiles and stuff, yeah, they do probably look better, but it's a great product otherwise. Anyway, that's the Battle Mat board. That's the Dungeon and Grass one. I assume there's either going to be other ones in the future, but a great place to start, and that's from Loke Battle Mats. If you've enjoyed this, well, why don't you check the review that I did of the big and giant Battle Mat books, also from Loke Battle Mat. They work very well together. You can probably see that video there. Either way, thanks for watching, and I'm Oliver East, signing out.